The lab doors sealed behind Claire Redfield as Sherry Birkin vanished into the cold embrace of government shadows. 7 years passed, no trial, no testimony. Only the hum of machines and the stench of antiseptic. What if her rescue was a handoff? What if her didn't rescue create the T-virus? But they knew Sherry could survive its kin, her immunity a silent scream in the archives. When she re-emerged in Cragleave, eyes hardened by unseen experiments, Claire's relief curdled into something heavier. The cost of survival is not always death. Sometimes it's the erasure of a life. The government didn't hide Sherry, they harvested her, and the mold that devours Re-7. It whispers her name in mycelial threads. The cold steel of containment doors echoes a truth buried deeper than Raccoon City's ashes. Sherry's progenitor-forged immunity didn't spare Harriet marked her. Imagine fluorescent-lit labs where her blood became blueprint, her cells a cipher for pathogens yet unleashed. The U.S. military didn't abandon her, they curated her, a living key to weaponize resistance. This reeks of the same rot that birthed BOWS, the same hands that fed Umbrella's greed. If her years in shadow were years on a slab, then every Resident Evil war has a silent soldier. What if the mold in Re-7 isn't just a monster? What if it's a monument to the girl who outlived her makers? The franchise's bones tremble at the weight of this secret. October 1998, Raccoon City burned, Sherry Birkin's childhood dissolved in toxic smoke. William and Annette Birkin, architects of the T-virus since 1968, left her a legacy not of love but of lab notes. Claire Redfield pulled her from the fire, yet the war did not end there. Whispers in unmarked files suggest Sherry vanished into silence. Why? Her blood carried a secret. The Progenitor Virus, Umbrella's original sin, failed to corrupt her. A flaw or a weapon. The U.S. military did not exile her, they buried her. Beneath sterile walls they mapped her immune code, whispering of soldiers who never bled, soldiers who never died. 6 years passed between Re-2 and Re-6. 6 years of questions. What experiments carved her into a tool? What nightmares forged her into a survivor? The truth lies in the gaps. A girl becomes a ghost, a victim becomes a variable, and the world forgets her name. The dossier's phrase lingers, asterisk classified asset, asterisk not a survivor, not a witness, a designation. Claire's rescue in 1998 becomes a paradox. If Raccoon's ashes marked her as a victim, why does the U.S. military file her as a weapon? The 1998 purge wasn't an end. It was a transfer. Her immunity to progenitor wasn't forgotten, it was archived. The file's date 2012 hides a longer shadow. What if the U.S. government's war against Umbrella included a silent prisoner? A girl whose blood held answers to the very virus that killed her father. No lab reports confirm it, no audio logs admit it. But the logic holds. Birkin's research died with him, yet his daughter lived. In Raccoon's ruins, in the silence after the explosion, she became a nameless project. Not exiled, contained. The Re-6 operative knows her, trained her. But who authorized the transformation? The 1998 military orders burned cities. What if they also buried a girl? Her years erased not by accident but by design. A body hidden in plain sight. A child's fate rewritten as a soldier's. The immunity wasn't a flaw, it was a feature. And the world, in its hunger for closure, let the truth rot. Sherry Birkin didn't vanish between games. She was reassembled. A ghost with a mission, a variable with a trigger. The dossier doesn't lie, it whispers. What does a government do with a girl who outlived a plague? They make her the cure or the bullet. The epilogue of Raccoon City's fall leaves Sherry Birkin's fate unspoken, a name absent from Re-6's files, a silence that echoes. The U.S. military has buried worse 1998 scorched earth, the unmarked graves of a bioweapons collateral. What if her immunity wasn't a miracle but a variable? The progenitor's secret weapon, a girl who didn't just survive infection, she rewrote it. Her disappearance isn't exile, it's containment. The same hands that erased Raccoon City's ashes would erase a child holding Umbrella's final key. Re-6 is military logs hint at C-virus countermeasures. Who better to engineer them than a living anomaly? The files that vanish aren't just about her, they are about what she could become. A symbol of resistance or a weapon in a lab coat, the contrast is deliberate. The world remembers Sherry as a survivor. The military remembers her as a project. Every gap in her timeline is a door left ajar. What experiments fit between the years? What protocols were tested on a girl who outgrew her chains? The Cold War had its Iceman. This war has its ghost. The US government doesn't need to confirm her captivity. Absence is its own signature. Re2's ending is a prologue. Re6's silence is an epilogue. What happens in between, the files that don't exist will never tell, but the question lingers. When a nation builds plagues, who do they fear most? The patient zero they can't control. The answer lies in the years they stole. And the weapon they made. Ash fell on Raccoon City. The progenitor's shadow stretched longer. What survives a plague's purge? Not the infected, the immune. Sherry Birkin's name vanished from records, not erased, archived. Anti-Umbrella rose in 2002, a coalition of ex-military, ex-corporate ghosts. Their mandate contained bioweapons. Yet their labs hummed with another purpose. A child who outlived her own creation, a body that rejected the progenitor's rot. What is a weapon that needs no firing? A key, a locked door, both. They called it containment. She called it a cage of glass and silence. Monitors tracked her pulse. Files stacked higher than her childhood, every scar a question mark. Every unbroken cell a riddle, the virus that made her, the virus that failed. Which truth did they fear most? The world burned again. Outbreaks in Kijuju, in Sheena. Anti-Umbrella's shadows deepened. Their reports whispered of survivor anomalies, of living templates. Of a girl who walked the line between weapon and witness, between weapon and weaponized. What does a plague's heir inherit? Not guilt, not glory. A body become battlefield. Sherry's years in the dark were no accident. They studied her, they feared her, they waited. Sherry's for the day the years in the dead dark would arise again. Need they a weapon it couldn't studied her control. The files in Resident Evil 6 whisper of locked doors, of clearance levels that swallow her name. No report names the hands that held her. No log confirms the experiments, yet the silence itself carves a shape-sharp hollow. The progenitor virus flows in her veins, a immunity no scientist could ignore. What if the US government's grip on her was as real as the T-virus they birthed in their own labs, but the truth fractures? Re6's fragments only tilt the mirror, reflecting shadows of containment, never proof. The theory bends on a pin. Was Sherry a project or a ghost they let wander? If the military's reach stretched to Raccoon City's ashes, why did they let her vanish? The contradiction gnaws. A weapon of that scale would not be hidden or erased, perhaps, but not left to rot. Or was she? The absence of proof is a shadow, not a cage. Did they study her? Or did they wait, as the world did, for her to reawaken? A weapon, a warning, or a question they dared not answer. The same month the US military obliterated Raccoon City, Sherry Birkin vanished. Claire Redfield's rescue had freed her from a crumbling nightmare, but not from the war still raging in shadows. October 1998 became a threshold. Before it, Sherry was a survivor. Afterward, a variable in an equation too dangerous to name. Re6's classified dossier labels her non-factor in B.O.W. development. A lie, her immunity to the progenitor's corruption wasn't a fluke. It was a gap in the formula, a weapons off switch. The government didn't need to create a virus to control it. They needed someone who could outlast it. Who could walk away from Raccoon City's ashes unmarked, unbroken. Her absence wasn't exile, it was containment. A name scrubbed from public records to mask a truth. The same hands that engineered the T-virus now guarded its weakness. 10 years later, Sherry re-emerges in Kijuju not as a pawn, but as a question with blood on its edges. How many simulations had they run? How many failures buried? The missile that killed 50,000 also erased a girl's future. In her place, they built a vault. And in that vault, a clock ticked, waiting for the world to catch up. The clock didn't tick for mercy, it counted down her resistance. Sherry's immunity to the progenitor wasn't a fluke, it was a spark. Umbrella's Arclay lab birthed the T-virus in 1968. By 1998, their reach stretched across continents. A girl who outlived a bioengineered apocalypse. They couldn't let her walk free. Who better to weaponize than a survivor who'd already beaten the odds? The US government didn't exile her. They buried her behind steel doors. Her body became a map, her blood a blueprint. How many labs carved secrets from her silence? How many needles turned her into a vault? This rewrites Re-6. Sherry wasn't a pawn, she was the blade they polished in shadows. If true, her absence isn't guilt, it's a scar they couldn't stitch. Every locked file, every redacted name, it's not about containing a virus. It's about containing the truth. How many others vanished like her? How many lives were erased to fuel the war against monsters? The rage isn't in what they did, it's in what they made us forget. Sherry's not just a survivor, she's a reckoning, and the clock. It's still ticking, waiting for the world to ask, who else is locked away? What if Sherry's silence wasn't punishment but a vault? The progenitor's shadow lingers in her veins, a key to unraveling the T-virus grip on humanity. What secrets did they burn to ash between Re-2's rubble and Re-6's war? She emerged as a weapon in a suit, not a lab-trained, calculated, dangerous. The government didn't hide her, they honed her. Every locked door, every erased file, whispers of a project beyond Umbrella's ruins. Could her immunity have forged a cure or a darker tool? The truth lies in the years they buried. Now the world watches Re-6's agent Shericold, precise, untouchable. But what if the real mission never ended? What if the virus still waits and the experiment is you? What if Sherry's silence wasn't punishment but a vault? The progenitor's shadow lingers in her veins, a key to unraveling the T-virus grip on humanity. What secrets did they burn to ash between Re-2's rubble and Re-6's war? She emerged as a weapon in a suit, not a lab-trained, calculated, dangerous. The government didn't hide her, they honed her. Every locked door, every erased file, whispers of a project beyond Umbrella's ruins. Could her immunity have forged a cure or a darker tool? The truth lies in the years they buried. Now the world watches Re-6's agent Shericold, precise, untouchable. But what if the real